start today's meeting of the Sustainability and Resiliency Committee. Sorry, a couple of us were running late. We were in an extended discussion upstairs, but we appreciate everybody showing up today. Let's just run. I'm John Strand, your chair. Let's run around the room and introduce ourselves and say whatever you have for the good of the order, and we'll go on with the agenda. Start. Jen.
I'm Jen Sweatman, member at large.
Greta Graymig, member at large.
Bruce Tarleton, inspections for 2 more days.
Retiring.
Sean Radnick, new inspections director on Monday.
I'm Ben Dow. I'm with Public Works as the director.
Bruce Grubb, Fargo City Administrator, and if I might, I'd like to thank Bruce on his way out. Welcome, Sean, but thank Bruce a lot for his participation here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Paul Mathis, Cass County Electric Cooperative.
Dave Leaker, Fargo Park District.
Brenda Derrig, City of Fargo City Engineer.
Okay, and over there?
Diana Bauman, work in the City Commission office. I'll be taking your minutes for you today.
And we could all wish her a happy birthday next Monday. Or I just can't stop myself. Going back to the last meeting, does anybody have any changes or corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, could we just have a general vote of a move for approval from somebody?
Second.
Moved and seconded by Greta and Bruce. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, agenda is as is. Minutes, any changes from the minutes from the July 13th meeting? Did I do minutes already? I didn't, did I? Sorry. All those, let's have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move.
Bruce moved, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Brenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, minutes will be posted as they're presented. Bruce, why don't you carry us forward into our agenda now?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back in January, I think it was January, it was slightly in front of this committee being formed, but Commissioner Strand was provided with a copy of a presentation regarding sustainability ideas for municipalities that was developed by Clean. And once this committee was formed, it was always our intent to invite them here to share that with this committee. But before that, we wanted to take you through some of the things that the city was already doing, kind of an educational piece. And so we've done most of that through our first several meetings. But fortunate enough to have Paul Jensen and Ed Gruchella here with us today with Clean. And they are loaded up and ready to go, so I'd like to introduce them. Welcome, thank you for being here, and turn the floor over to you whenever you're ready. Ed, are you going to go first?
Yes, okay. Thanks, Bruce, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. As you can see by the PowerPoint here, my name is Ed Gruchella. I'm about a 40-year resident of Fargo here. Our Clean group is made up of all volunteers, and we're just people, like-minded people who are concerned about the environment and the direction of our city, state, and federal government in regards to energy. Many of us have been involved in a lot of environmental groups prior to this, but we finally narrowed it down and said, you know, we're not going to change the world, probably. We're not going to change the United States. Maybe we can't even affect the state. So we're going to just call ourselves, we're going to use that axiom that the Sierra Club used. Think globally and act locally, and try to see if we can actually affect something in our own community. So we formed this group about 3 years ago, and we called it Citizens Local Energy Action Network. And we meet monthly. We have about 120, 30 members, something like that. And we've been involved with different things here in the community. We testified at the Moorhead Power meeting over there when they were expanding their solar arrays out there by the landfill. We congratulated, we met with Cass County Electric when they were formulating their solar 100 kilowatt solar plant in South Fargo. We've been to the Public Service Commission meetings, the one in Castleton, on the Geronimo Solar Farm or the Harmony Solar Farm out there, and tried to promote that. We've testified in front of the legislature. We brought bills out there, got a sponsor for some bills, mainly working with trying to get in some net metering for North Dakota. Many of you probably don't know net metering, but it's one of our top priorities, trying to get some parity when you put your own solar panels in, that the electric company has to pay you somewhat similar to what they charge you when you produce your own. They should pay you something more on par. So I guess that's probably enough. I got involved in climate change way back. When I got back from Vietnam, Uncle Sam sent me to college, or paid my college bill. I went to Valley City State University in Valley City, and there was a little college professor there named Archie Moore. And he was a biology teacher, and he started talking things about like climate change, population growth, all these big pie in the sky things that were coming down the pike. But when he started talking about climate change, that always stuck with me. So I got involved in the environmental movement at that time, mainly with the environment. So that's what got me started, and we've been working on that ever since. I met Paul Jensen here a few years ago. He knows more about energy than I do, than a lot of people do. He's been in the energy business around the world for years, and runs a business out of here in energy. So he knows more about it than I do. So Paul is going to carry this through, and we'll answer questions when we're finished. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. Yeah, Ed has been here a little bit longer than me. I've only been here 14 years, but we love it positively. As Ed mentioned, yeah, I've been around the world for a while. I've been corporate gypsy most of my life, until I came to North Dakota and fell in love with this state, and hence the reason why I'm staying here. And so I was working with a company called ABB, Asea Brown Boveri. At the time, there was about 250,000 employees. It was a large multinational. And we did everything, 40,000 different things, but mainly power plants, substations, generation, locomotives, you name it. It was like a GE of Europe at the time. So yeah, Ed's memory, we are actually established in 2016, so we've been around 5 years, not 3. But I came into this thing with environmental, should say, issues or concerns, actually in 1972. There was, at that time, the Club of Rome issued a book called Limits to Growth, and the Limits to Growth predicted quite accurately that we're going to be in the soup that we're in right now when it comes to the environment. So actually they predicted it would be happening somewhere between 2016 and 2025. And all the curves that you can find from MIT at the time, they show, or the graphs, they show exactly what's happening because we did nothing about the threatening climate change based on CO2 emissions. Now here we are, faced with these problems. Of course, we're interested in doing something globally, but more also locally. All right, so this is about our group, and Ed has already spoken about it. But we take our lead from a variety of organizations, Department of Energy, the Clean Cities Program, Stockholm Resiliency Institute, Argonne, NASA, Climate Reality, Potsdam Group, and Club of Rome. The axioms for clean here is that we look for the future prosperity of our members, for all people, as a matter of fact, not just our members, but our members look at what threatens our future prosperity. We try to be conservative of our natural resources, and we want to make sure that there are sustainable practices that are sound, that apply to all forms of energy use. And we are aware of the human costs associated with it. that is also what drives us forward. So CLEAN is a pragmatic, non-political organization. We don't take sides. It just happens to be that those who believe with our version of climate change are often on one side of the political alley. So it's about sustainability, environmental sustainability, economical sustainability, and social sustainability. That's all things that should be included in a plan for a community. Here we go. Sustainability is just like an insurance plan. There's basically no difference there. You look at the concerns that you have. You try to find out where do we stand today, what have we done today to secure the future of our community, and what do we plan to do for the future. And that is, in principle, what an insurance plan is all about, is to ensure that we have a future. And that's what this plan is all about. So, as Ed alerted to, I have another company called Green Ways to Go. And we are quite active in the Illinois-Chicago region and worked for the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. And it consists of some 280 municipalities. They have been discussing on how to deal with sustainability in the Chicago, Illinois region. And a plan was developed for them for the purpose of moving forward, not just on energy, but on all sustainability issues. And you can see here that we're proposing that you can have such a plan for the Fargo, Moorhead, and West Fargo area as well. There's no need why it should just stay over there. Why reinvent the wheel when you already have a good structure that you can apply almost instantaneously? And I know the city of Fargo has already done quite a lot. I looked through your minutes of meeting before I came here, and you discussed the water situation and waste, etc. So the city has already done quite a lot of stuff that we need to put into the plan and say, we have been successful with this. Now, where do we go from here? So the process is to research existing plans, then best practices and ideas, define what the Green Cities Compact means, actually, and develop a framework tool, gain resolutions, and then deploy to the city. It's not rocket science at all. Just simply have a plan for it, and then follow it, and identify where we have to do something. So I can't help but taking this up, because this is exactly the reason why I got involved, is the 9 planetary boundaries. And this was developed some time ago. I think it was in 2009 where it came out. And it shows, it's divided the planetary boundaries into 9 segments. And you can see that wherever we are going outside, it's the planetary ability to manage these things is typically in agricultural sectors. Genetic diversity is horrible. About 98% of all vertebrates, including humans on this earth, 98% are livestock and humans. There's 2% left in the rest of the world, as it is today. This is a frightening situation, because humanity strives on the diversity of the various species, and we are threatened because we are gradually destroying the variety of species through spraying, for example. I know it's it's a double-edged sword. If you don't spray, for example, for West Nile virus, well, then you have problems with diseases in human beings as well. But nitrogen and phosphor runoffs are probably the biggest problems. And those who treat the water here in the town, they will probably know that very well. So those areas of excess are typically related to agriculture. But that's something we really live off, or live from here in North Dakota. So we have to be cognizant, of course, that we don't destroy the basis for our communities to survive. But we have to have some kind of a balance. Everything has to have a balance. And that's also what we're thinking about. So out of those 9 goals there are 17 sustainability goals that have been derived from these researchers. And our group is focused on climate action. And of course, we could be involved in everything else, but let's just start with one of these items here. The plate is definitely full for everybody. So we wish to participate in and make suggestions to build a plan in Fargo, and we want to use that development plan we did with Chicago municipalities. Because as I said, no reason to reinvent the wheel. Why don't we just apply something that has been successful? And you're welcome to talk to Edith Macra. She's the one who runs the show in Chicago, and you can talk to her about what was done and where they stand now, because I think they have progressed pretty well. But it is a framework that contains 10 categories and some 49 consensus goals. I mean, you have to think of it. These are 280 municipalities. They have to achieve some form of consensus. Now, we're so lucky we just have one municipality here. We can start here, and I'm sure we can get consensus pretty soon on the things that are important. But then also invite West Fargo and Moorhead to sign on, because they're our neighbors. There you see the framework areas, the 10 of them, and I have a spreadsheet, of course, like everybody does. And in this spreadsheet, we have all these details. We have it from a framework booklet as well that's been published in Chicagoland. So under those 49 areas that we wanted to look at, this is what they did in Illinois. Not everything will apply to us here in North Dakota and Fargo, but it's just a start for our planning department to maybe look at these different areas here, and let's try to define what we're going to do with these areas. Where are we today and where we're going to go? And so the local government committee, that's you, and you have to lead, encourage, and enact through your commissioners. And that's what we are proposing that we do: lead, enact, and encourage. Also our neighbors, and maybe other municipalities in the state of North Dakota. I would like to see us take the flaming torch and go forward here. And this is how it could look like. I mean, this is the one on energy. It's just a small one here. There are many, many sectors included in the energy plan, but I don't know if you can see it here, but it talks about, what is already achieved and in progress, and what do you want to do for the next 6 months or up to 18 months. And maybe you don't want to do anything on the different subjects. That's up to you to decide what you want to do, but you've got to have that plan. And then at the very last column, you'll see there are some small links. Well, these are links to other plans that have been done in the country, other organizations like Argonne National Laboratories and NASA and municipalities around the state or around the country. You can see what they did on that specific subject. This is another one on energy. So in this discussion, they had 37 candidate actions that they wanted to look at, and they selected 15. And then in the end, they make an initial plan for what they want to achieve, or what the municipality wants to achieve. So that's the basis for it. And waste and recycling is another area. You go through all these different candidate actions and then select the ones that are important to you, and eventually then you make a plan. And you create responsibility for each of these things with the various department managers, that they have the responsibility to carry them out at a certain time, report back why or why not this was achieved or not achieved. But before doing that, we propose, like they have in these municipalities in Illinois, then you make a sample resolution of what you want to achieve in general. And I think it's somewhere in the memory or written down on paper somewhere in the city administration, but it's worthwhile to have a look at making a resolution to where we are today, where do we want to be in the future, and when. Because time is running out. I'm not joking. I visited 52 countries in my life. I've seen all kinds of environmental damage going on over those years. And we're getting close. And I wouldn't want to leave that behind for my grandkids. And so, municipality role, as I said, is to lead, to encourage, and enact the plans. That's how we see it. And it's up to you guys to make a decision to what you want to, how you want to go about this, okay? And who might be involved? Well, there's of course the management, headed by Bruce, and the mayor, and then the leadership and the department personnel. You can read it yourself, all the schools and so on, and then the grassroots volunteers that are interested in helping along. And I would like to see that we get the junior high schools and the colleges and universities and just interest groups like ours to participate in such a plan for our municipality. So there's a mission, of course, also. We can say that we want to create and maintain self-sustaining community, and we can encourage future generations. We can accept that we are one species among many, and so on. Or simply, as I say, a small statement from Park Forest in Illinois saying, sustain the human individual. That's very broad, of course. And that next step is to engage yourself, to facilitate the framework layout, and to make these gatherings. And in Chicagoland, we got together and spoke with everybody and had questionnaires and tried to establish the framework with each and every one. And it takes time. It can take a year or two before we are getting really done with it. But it's something we need to do. As I said, this is an insurance plan, basically, for our future. And that's what we are suggesting as a group of Clean. And then if you want to read more about these things, here's a link to the Club of Rome. This book called Come On is actually a rework of Limits to Growth, and that came out in '72. And maybe I'm a little tainted because my old boss was the director of the Club of Rome in Switzerland, and I had the pleasure to visit them several times. Since, as you can see, I'm also half Swiss and half Danish and half American. Well, now I live here, and I subscribe to the way we live our lives in the United States. But that's it for us. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.
Thank you, Paul and Ed, very much. Let's go around the table. Let's just begin. Anybody, Greta and Jen, anything running around you'd like to interact or?
No, okay, I have a question. Do you think that there's any shot that we're going to avert some of the worst effects of climate change, even if we implement all of these measures? My feeling is that, yeah, sure, we can go ahead and implement measures to mitigate, but we also ought to be talking about how we're going to cope with the coming changes.
Yeah, I know. It's a good question. If we have the outlook that, well, no matter what we do, it's not going to change anything, well, then that's not really true. It's just like in a voting process, every vote counts. And the more of us in the grassroots levels that are letting our opinion heard to our leadership, the more you're going to see a change. And is it too late? No, I don't think so, as a matter of fact. I think there are things we can do in the interim. We need to take much more notice of what nature itself can do to help mitigate the climate crisis. especially, I know the city has done some very good initiatives, for example, to let areas that were previously mowed, like now become some variable grassland, different species of plants and so on. It's a step forward because, yeah, you want to bring things back to a balanced situation, and every little thing matters. I don't know if I asked you, or I answered your question properly.
Sure.
Good. Yeah. But you know, it hurts every time you do want to make if you want to make some change, it's just like if you're taking the smartphone away from a 17-year-old, you know, they're going to scream, rant, and rave to begin with, but eventually they will find a way to overcome their dependency. It's the same with us and our dependency on various sources of energy, for example. I would love to see much more nuclear power in the future. I think we can manage nuclear power better than we can do fossil-based fuels. But that's my personal opinion. And yeah, we have to, since there's a representative here from Cass County Electric Cooperative, Paul Matthews, maybe you can answer what you're going to do mitigating the CO2 emissions. Because, you know, wherever I look at plans with CO2 sequestration, I don't see a technical solution that works. I don't see a solution that has the capability to rein in the CO2 that's being emitted and keep it into the natural balance forever. I mean, we can pump down things in the ground, but it's much better if it's retained in vegetation. Okay? Maybe we're going too far out right now.
Mayor, you look like...
Well, John and Ed, thank you. You're kind of championing this in the state, but I'm reminded at the energy conference in which we had a discussion, Representative Armstrong stood up and made a speech in the oil industry and energy industry. Yeah. And I know Ed knows this, when you go to the legislative body, probably like 85–90% are not really hearing or pushing clean energy.
Right.
And if you go, what Representative Armstrong's comment was, if you look at 85% of the postings of people under 30, they truly believe this is an issue and truly believe government should do something to solve this issue. Right. And I think as you furtherly get west in the country, you get a lot more people pushing it. But Ed, don't you think in our community, in our state, it's a little bit of pushing uphill because oil and gas revenue is so much part of many people's budgets and part of their city governments in a sense, that there's a balance that you have to have with our legislative body because of their philosophical discussions on this?
Yes. You know, we work with Moorhead quite a bit, and you know, it's different over there when you talk to the Moorhead people, right? They just see things differently. You know, one of the things that we came out of a couple of our meetings was that we're trying to stress now is that climate change is just data. That's all it is. You can say climate change, whether you believe it or not, it's data. It's hard facts. And if you look at the facts, climate change is real, and we have to do something. We have to do it now. Also, one of the things that came out of it was that we keep stressing that CO2 is a pollutant, right? It is a pollutant. It's just like throwing trash out your door. If you're producing a product and you're burning something to do it, you're causing pollution. And we're finally getting to the point now where I think we're holding some of the companies responsible for what they're doing. It's no different putting, like I said, throwing your trash out the door or putting your trash up in the atmosphere. It's trash. And we can't keep doing that. Another thing that came up the other day was when we had all the smoke in the area, and you noticed on the map in the evening what's the air quality for the day, and you look at that big gap up there where nobody knows what the air quality is. Why is that? Because we don't have air quality monitors very good in this state. There's only a few, and they're not very good. So one of the things we're doing here at Clean is we're saying if we can raise the funds, we will donate some air quality monitors to put in people's neighborhoods. Some of them are portable now. You can move them around. You know, we tell people we have the cleanest air in the country, right? That's what we tell people. But do we know that? No, we don't. So that, you know, it goes to everything. I don't know if that answers the question, Mr. Mayor, about North Dakota, but yeah, it's, I was on the Industry, Business, and Labor Committee for 4 sessions. And that's where all the big bills go for the big projects. And, you know, like I told people in our group, coal and oil, the lobbyists for them were there every day. They're in the hallways. They're telling people what, you know, what they should do and what bills should be introduced. And when some group came in, like the Sierra Club or the Badlands Conservation Alliance, volunteers, they were kind of just laughed at, literally laughed at, the way they dressed. Or if you all know Wade Schaefer, he didn't dress the best, a flannel shirt and jeans, but he was really smart and he knew what the environment was, what we were doing to the environment. But he was just kind of shunned or frowned upon, laughed at. So we have to change that mentality. And, you know, people like us just being volunteers, we don't have the capability of, you know, putting full-time lobbyists in the legislature, but that's what it takes. It literally takes a big movement. And, you know, we figure we're starting here local with you guys. Maybe you can lead the charge here, you know, get Fargo being number 1 and the rest of you will follow. Somebody's got to lead, and we need leaders.
Join in, anybody? Questions?
I'll give
Bruce?
my opinion, a comment. It looked like a grand plan. I mean, it was almost overwhelming. It's a lot. It's well thought out, a lot of data there. And it seems overwhelming when you first look at it to be able to put that into action. And you did say a year or 2 to get going, and so we can see that. But I do see chipping away at it in small pieces, and Bruce did a great job at the white paper, and just to show what we've done, that was amazing to me, to be able to see that in one spot and know that we did all that. And it's still going on. And I do agree, Fargo is the leader in the state. When the energy code was kind of pushed on us, we did it. And we've been doing it ever since. And we embrace it almost now. It was foreign to us in 2009, and now we're backing it and pushing it and keeping it going. And actually making it better, because a little bit every code cycle, we would chip away at it and get to full compliance in that energy code. So we do things. So when I look at the grand scheme, it seems like overwhelming, but it can be done. And to get everybody on board, it might be. I hear Xcel Energy, they have a plan for clean energy, and it sounded like a good one to me. Is actually when the president talks about change and moving forward with CO2 reduction, you hear that Xcel Energy has a plan. It seemed almost unattainable to me that they could do what they said about, with coal removal and things like that. So. It seems like it's going in a good direction to put it in a plan like that. It seems a lot, but I think it could be worked out somehow.
Yeah, a plan is just there to get a handle on it all, right? And you have to always be cognizant of the fact that to make things happen, it costs money. And what does the community have to pay for all this? We have to be pragmatic and put our effort where it's most critical. And that's what that plan is intended to do, is to point out where is it most critical, where is it most worthwhile to spend money, and where can we wait with doing things, you know. So, yeah, it's quite important, yeah.
I was just going to ask you, the first time we met, I think you were proposing, was it charging stations along the interstate in North Dakota?
One more time,
You did a presentation to us quite a while back on that.
Yeah.
Did that ever happen? Along the interstate?
Yeah,
you told us that people were going around North Dakota because they couldn't.
The electrical chargers, yes. Yeah, that's happening.
It did happen along the interstate?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
it's going forward. I mean, the city has 4 fast chargers right now. We have one just outside the door, Fargo City Hall. Congratulations. We have another one with West Acres. We have one with West Cass County Electric Cooperative, have actually 1, 2, 3 of them, and we applaud them for that initiative. So they have in West Acres, they have in Hornbachers, West Fargo, and they have another one at the tourist center. And I know they were talking about having one closer to their own offices as well, but I don't think that materialized at the time. But the city of Hillsborough has just put one in. We have up in Minot, we have in Grand Forks, we have in Bismarck. Just a few weeks ago, I went to the inauguration of 2 chargers, one at the airport, one at the tourist center, like at I-94. We're a little thin when you go west on Dickinson with the fast chargers, but I think it's going to come.
So has the state of North Dakota embraced it though? Because at that time you said they did not. They rejected your plan.
Well, they got the money for free from Volkswagen, you know. So you can embrace everything you get for free, almost, right? So if you get paid 100% by that mitigation fund, which was a lot of money, I think we got 6.7 million or something like that, or 8.2 million dollars for the state of North Dakota, of which 15% was going to be used for EV charging. Those 15% are just about spent now. So now it's up to the individual communities maybe, or businesses to build it from here on. So we look forward to seeing that happening, but you can almost bet your life savings on that we're going to have carbon charges in the very near future. I've seen many, many presentations and interviews with global leaders that talk about $70, $80 per metric ton. And that means everything produced will have a carbon charge of some kind. And that's the motivator, isn't it? I mean, money is the motivator to make a change. If it costs money, then you're going to do everything to save. And so your creativity starts to really flow. And that's what we want to see in businesses, that their creativity is being stimulated by putting in a tax on carbon emissions, right? And well, I leave it at that.
Ben, did you have anything to add to that? You worked with those charging stations in the Volkswagen funding, and
So we were very fortunate in getting some of those VW dollars, not only in the charging stations, but also in, reduction in diesel emissions, as far as upgrading one of our fire trucks was outdated and didn't have the newest and greatest diesel emissions on it. And so that was one of the other things we were able to succeed at with that VW grant.
anybody else? Anybody? Bruce?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to follow up. Thank you, Paul, for the presentation. I couldn't help thinking as he was showing the grand vision that I might take it on myself and then bring it back to this committee to, we've got the white paper of things done and see how many boxes I can check as things that are already done, and then are there some other low-hanging fruit parts that this committee could participate in pursuing? You know, there may be some that we're just not interested in chasing as well, but this carbon offset thing, this was about 15 years ago or so, but we got this wild idea to join an organization called the Chicago Climate Exchange, and it was kind of like a broker for carbon offsets. And at that time, we were collecting landfill gas and metering it, proving its destruction, and offsetting carbon emissions. And we joined that Chicago Climate Exchange, and those carbon offsets had great value to us. The program has since gone away. We hear that it might be coming back, but I really shocked our finance director one day when he saw an electronic deposit put in the city's bank account, large numbers. And so I like to kind of say we were chasing carbon offsets before it was cool. So just wanted to throw that out.
It's great to have representatives from the community show up and share your resources and wealth with us, because we're learning. You know, this is a new commission. We're trying to get our arms around what we're all about and what we can do. And you can rest assured that your influence will permeate into our actions. I hope you stay close to us and hold our feet to the fire and lead. The mayor alluded to it, but it can't be probably very easy in a state that's so literally fueled by carbon energies, fossil fuels. And to have that discussion, sometimes we need to let people know we're not the enemy. We're just all trying to shape a future and participate, and not brand people like you're anti-fossil, you're anti-energy when you're in North Dakota, because we're here. So it's important we hear from our citizens and that we get the challenges and expectations put back to us, to what people are hoping for, especially the younger generation. We need to be reminded of that. So your leadership is very, very, very important. And let's find a moment where we can work together.
Yeah.
Let's start with a starting point. Let's something it seems so overwhelming, like so big, but we'd have to start. We get to start somewhere, and we found out Fargo's done a lot. That's been gratifying. I don't know that we all knew how much has been accomplished here in the track record that exists, but we get to continue forward. So thank you both very, very much for being here today.
Thank you.
Now our next topic, I'll turn to Bruce, but it might be a little example of something we can do that might fuel our mission.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Brian, do you know if Darla is on?
I'm here.
Okay, Darla, if you're okay with it, I have a little intro for you. Not trying to embarrass you or steal your thunder, but for the committee, one of the other initiatives that the city of Fargo and other regional partners, for that matter, have been involved with is the FM Plastic Bag Task Force. And recently, they had the idea of a project to procure 1,000 reusable bags. The idea would be to hand those out in grocery stores on Plastic Bag-Free Day. Plastic Bag-Free Day. Due to the COVID uptake, though, those plans for the bag distribution have since changed. But anyway, the plan would be to allow fifth graders from participating schools to come up with an artwork design for the bags that depicts what they learned about recycling and plastic bags. The winning design would be printed on the bags, which are made from 100% recycled plastic bottles. Unfortunately, the cost for 1,000 bags is about $2,800, and not surprisingly, sometimes task force or SRCs don't have budgets to work with. But Commissioner Strand was asked if the city of Fargo would be interested in being a sponsor for this initiative, and so when John talked to me, I thought it might be a neat opportunity for the SRC to be the sponsor for this reusable bag project. And we don't have a budget yet either, but it's not a whole lot of money, $2,800. And if this committee thought that would be a good idea to get our name out there, I'd like to see our committee printed on the bag if we could, but I would try and find the money so that we could be the sponsor for that project. And so, as you know, invited Darla Lewandowski. She is the Plastic Bag Task Force Coordinator, and she's with us today. And I hope I didn't tell your entire story, Darla, but
No, you're good.
I'm supportive of what you're doing. I'm hoping the committee is as well, and glad you were able to carve out time for us today. But I'll give you the stage, and you can tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I wish I could be there in person today. I did, however, test positive for COVID this morning, so I am at home for the time being. Thank you guys for having me. I do appreciate it. Excuse me. We do have a couple of minor changes. Otherwise, you covered almost everything that I was going to talk about. Due to everything that's happening with COVID and the rising cases and everything like that, we were going to hand out the bags, excuse me, to people at grocery stores. However, we're going to change that now. We do a plastic bag challenge every year. And with that, we just talked to the fifth graders about plastic bags and why they're an issue. And then we're going to end up giving these reusable bags to each participating student. That way they can take the bags home. They get to use them themselves, show them off to their families and that sort of thing. So the number of bags that will need to be printed is going to be under 1,000. So the money that we're going to need will be a little bit less. I'm still waiting currently to hear back from a couple of the larger schools as to their participation in this project. But my assumption is with them participating in the art contest for the reusable bag, they will also be participating in this year's plastic bag challenge as well, this coming 2022.
So Darla, this is John. Would you tell us who is the Plastic Bag Task Force and what have you done in the past?
So the Plastic Bag Task Force is just a local group here in the Fargo-Moorhead community that just kind of educates the public on plastic bags and why they're bad. We've done a plastic bag collection pilot program at our local drop sites, and that was very successful. We collected a very large amount of bags in a very short period of time. We just go out in the community and educate people. We've handed out a few flyers. We work on going to different conferences and different things like that just to talk to people. What else have we done? We initiated the spring cleanup with Earth Day. So every year we do a cleanup and we organize a bunch of vendors and sponsors from the area to help give a little prize. Dairy Queen gives away like a little ice cream treat. Nature of the North gave a free rock wall climbing pass for those people that did go out in the community and clean up for Earth Day. And then what we're most known for recently is the Plastic Bag Challenge. So with that guy, that's just encouraging the students to talk with their family and their guardians at home to not use plastic bags and then to use reusable bags that Gate City donates every year for us to use and to hand out to those students. So you see those blue bags floating around the community quite a bit.
Thanks, Darla. And I've had the opportunity to work with the task force over there across the river. And, you know, a few years back, North Dakota banned us from ever like thinking we could do anything with plastic bags. So it's nice to have folks across the river that we can partner with. And Clay County has funded this and helped us get a structure. One of the things we started off with is this isn't about a fight. Let's bring we brought the leaders of the Grocers Association to the table. And engaged with each other, but how can we work together? And so you start seeing some of the results of recycling units in the front of grocery stores and stuff like that. That's part of the result that came from this collaboration, that rather than a fight about how bad bags are, how can we encourage reusability or recycling and reuse, those patterns. Darla, tell us specifically the request you're asking today is, as I understand it, and as Bruce alluded to it, it's for the SRC in the city of Fargo to fund creating up to 1,000 bags that you will then disperse through the young student population. Is that the gist of it?
Yep. So we will give the reusable bags that the students create to them to bring back home. But basically what we're asking for is a donation for a little under 1,000 bags to be printed, to be distributed to those students. Yes.
What do you guys all think? It's not the biggest thing in the world, but it's adding to the messaging out there.
What was the price, John? I missed it.
Darla, what was it, 2,800 or less then?
Yep, 2,800 or less then.
Bruce, can you find that in the budget maybe?
I'll go to work looking for it right after this meeting. No, I've already looked and we can do that, yeah.
We can take out of Ben's budget.
So there we go. We got it. But what I like about this is we have some other ideas that we're going to be brainstorming about. But at a very minimum, we can start influencing the messaging in the community. We can start affecting the thinking, you know, the mindset in the community, where we can start connecting to the younger generation who are passionate about the climate issues. And at a very minimum, we can start building some of these bridges and show some tractionable action. That's kind of what I like about this is, Mayor?
I'd move for us to find funding for this to help it out in honor of Bruce Tharlson because of all his hard work and inspections. Now, Sean, I want you to realize that he talked a lot today, so you too are going to have to do that. And just for committee members, sometimes I think the mayor has great clout in Bismarck, but when John Strand threatened to have a bag, type of bag ban or charge or fee, the legislators got together as quickly as possible and made a law that he couldn't do it. So when John Strand speaks, people listen.
so I'll carry a big bag. We have a motion. Is there a second to have the SRC approach the city to fund this?
Diana, that's a really long motion, but I would second that motion.
A second, any,
I will third it with the request
Oh, I'll
that
give Bruce
that my
Turles.
face is not
Yeah.
on the bag. I do think about the bags once in a while. I go to the cities a lot. I always wonder why it's different in the cities. You go to grocery stores and it's all paper. There's some with no plastic. And I don't know why that is. Some are very expensive bags. It's handles, different types. So why is it different? It'd be nice to know and find out.
and like everything, it takes time to create new habits. I'll go to a grocery store and leave my reusable bag in the car, and you have to create those habits. Take it with you, use it, remember. So it's a long process, and we don't need to bludgeon people to create new patterns of behavior. Is there any other discussion about the motion on the table? If we'll have a voice vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we have our first action. We have some other things we'll come forward with, but at a very minimum, we can start messaging our broader messages in the community. Bruce.
Mr. Chairman, just thank you, Darla, but one thing, I think the city of Fargo started collecting recyclables in some degree or another back in 1989 when I first started, but we quickly found the most effective way to get a homeowner or somebody that lives in rental to become aware of recycling is their child at school, to send them home with that idea. So I love the fact that we're doing this in school, because if there's one way to convince an adult that recycling is important, it's start with their kids. So
Absolutely.
Think of Greta Thunberg. You know, what that 13, was she 13 when she started, sitting outside of City Hall with a sign, and now she's world famous. This kid with a heart and passion, so we can contribute. Darla, anything else from you for the moment?
No, that should be all. Just want to say thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate what you're doing, and you can work with our administration to breathe life into this project.
Wonderful.
As a suggestion, Darla, that you might work with Jennifer, who does the recycling for the city of Fargo, if she wants inroads
Yes.
into the schools. I don't know if she's already doing that, but she should be able to help her.
Yep,
Yeah,
Jen.
see, we've touched base briefly. Still working on getting her to participate. We'll try to get some Fargo schools involved too if we can, but that's completely up in her court. So we'll see what she has to say.
Great.
Hey, this is Blake from Fargo Public Schools. The first thing I had for you was if you're finding a funding gap, I'd be more than happy to help close that gap in case there's a shortage or whatever else, or split it 3 ways or whatever. I'm more than happy to help with that. Also, too, if you need somebody as a contact within the schools, I'm more than happy to help with that as well, to get some information out there to the 5th grade classes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure.
So Darla, that's the benefit. We have the school district at the table, and we have the park district at the table. So these partnerships will help fuel your efforts as well.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, and we hope you get well. We'll continue
Thank
on.
you.
Is there anybody in the audience? I don't believe so, with public comment. Last item on the agenda is we're going to, at this moment, shift to every other month meetings. So our next meeting will be in November. We'll nail down the date, but we want it to work with everybody. We don't need to meet just to meet, but we want to keep the flow going, but we want to have action that drives us too. Bruce.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and originally we had, for lack of anything else, picked the second Tuesday of the month, and you know how that goes. School starts, and sometimes schedules change, and so if you're okay with it, we tried a doodle poll last time to see, not everybody's schedules are going to work all the time, but if you wouldn't mind, we'll send out a doodle poll in a bit to pick the most opportune date and time for the committee members, if that's okay.
Great, thank you, Bruce. And we're also welcoming topics for future agendas. If you know people that should present or could present, bring them forward to Bruce especially. Mayor?
John, I'd be curious. Paul had some multiple graphs on different things and little score points on what were there, and just on his recycling one, I thought we'd hit almost 90% of the things they had on his scorecards. Could it be just an exercise to go through all those scorecards and see where Fargo sits, where we're at on some of those things? Because, we think we are somewhere we're making good progress, but I'd be kind of curious how we'd come out on that scorecard of what are we doing to impact that? Because I think, Paul, you can kind of score it along the way. Do you have a program? Don't have a program? What are you doing? Do you think we maybe could work with that and have the teams look at that?
That's what I just offered to do moments ago, Mayor. No, I thought it'd be, my own curiosity, I would like to do that with what we're doing versus, see how much we've accomplished, and then if there's low-hanging fruits, some unchecked boxes that we might want to concentrate on as a committee.
And keep them close to the
Yeah,
discussion
yeah,
so
of
we
course.
can have a dialogue and maybe see some opportunities and windows to, and also acknowledge what's been done. Okay, that's a good point. Thank you, Mayor. When we have the mayor involved in us deciding actions and budgets, that helps a lot. Anything else? Thank you to the presenters. Thanks to Darla. Thanks for everybody attending, and we'll nail down the November meeting. Bruce, good luck to you in your retirement. We'll see you as an engaged citizen, I expect, in the future. You'll be over there. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everyone.